So hi there. We thought it was about time at BritFlicks to interview a few female directors, what commonly I suppose I would call Brit chicks. And today, the first one is a lovely lady who's sitting opposite me, and she has made a very decorated short film called MYRTLE, and the director's name is Patricia McCormack. So welcome to BritFlicks.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
And good for being a Brit chick, the first one in actual fact. You are the first one to chip out of the shell. So these are just going to be short little pieces just to give the female point of view, because there isn't anything out there that's really for that in a light way. It's, just to talk about somebody's career path and how they want to make films. So that is the first question I'm going to ask you, Patricia. What made you want to direct?
Well, I suppose always having a kind of loose interest in it. I come from a theatre background. I was an actress in theatre, and was just kind of curious about the world of film, really. And so agreed with a friend to try and edit from a play that I knew already. So I wouldn't say I had a kind of aha moment. I want to direct. It was, I'm going to give this a try. Let's see, and just keep taking steps towards it. And then you realise, as you're doing it and have done it, that you are even more fascinated by it, and you want to keep going. You want to keep developing yourself. So it's like, it wasn't a sudden thing for me. It was more of just a gradual coming to the realisation that I love this. Yeah. This is something I want to do more of.
Directing is very much a solo sport. It's very much a solo career. And I think, a lot of women, there's that element of it. They love the collaboration and they love thinking about film. But I just wondered, is it because you like to take charge, or is it that you have the creative vision? What actually did you suddenly think, wow, directing is for me? At what point during the process of making MYRTLE, your first film?
I suppose it's more probably having autonomy, actually, of being able to have something that is complete and your voice is on it. Also, again, because my background is acting, and as an actor, you're dependent on others all the time. It's the opposite, in a way that it's truly collaborative, but you are waiting for other people all the time. Whereas obviously as the director, like
you're taking charge.
You have to lead. Yeah. You have to lead. Yeah. And also just finding, it's like a moving painting, there's something about film that is really tantalising, because unlike theatre, once it's done, and it's there, it's tangible, people can look back on it, and that's really exciting,
Yeah, it's this working with something which is then a legacy. There's an imprint that you've made, like a picture or something else. So obviously you're a writer-director as well. MYRTLE is written and directed by you.
No, sorry, Megan wrote MYRTLE.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Megan wrote the play.
Yeah.
I did an edit from the play. So
okay, fine.
Yeah.
But it really, really works as a piece. So what are you now working on or working towards? What is your personal next? What have you thought to yourself, what am I going to do next, which is going to move my career on?
Well, I want to kind of explore a different form, in a sense, comedy. Yeah. It's still dark. MYRTLE is dark. It's still dark. It's kind of around a crime. But it has it has an energy to it that would be more in the form of, I don't know, like Burn After Reading, or, Get Shorty. I don't know. There's something about the kind of crime caper that really appeals to me. The chaos of it, So I want to do a short form of of something in that kind of area. And again too, I feel I'm very much finding my voice still. So I feel MYRTLE was a bit of a transition, and now I'm kind of developing this piece that is very much a kind of flavour of the direction I want to move in.
Yeah. So, because that was what intrigued me about MYRTLE. There was an originality about it. And so, I wish you well with going forwards with that. And What would you say is the most important thing for you to have as a director to move forwards? What have you found that the most invaluable going through that production process? What was the most invaluable source of support that you had?
Well, I mean, what I kind of take away from it is that by striving forward and stepping into the wilderness and into complete darkness, actually, people appear, you know. And there's a magic to it. So if you're kind of committed to something, then I was so tremendously lucky with the team I managed to build in MYRTLE, but that was all by chance and by intuition, actually. You meet someone, they respond to the material, and you go in your gut to just say, hey, do you want to work with me? And I kept going that way. And obviously meeting the fabulous Shaheen, the producer for MYRTLE.
What's her second name?
Shaheen Schleifer. She came on board a week before we were shooting MYRTLE. So I was already up and running and going, I don't have no idea how I'm going to fulfill this now with all the practicalities. And I found Shaheen in the nick of time. And now, you know, so it's like...
That helped move it on, did it?
It's essentially, it's like things happen, the momentum builds as you go. I didn't start knowing how I was going to do it in any sense. So it's a real lesson in that. Like, you don't need to know how you're going to do it, just do it, you know?
Which I think, as I say, why I wanted to know is because you are a first-time filmmaker of any length, and I think some people they get stuck on this. You know, I need this and I need that, and the fact is quite as you've quite rightly said, as you go forwards with your aim, something comes back at you. So, well, thank you very much for that. And now we're going to turn the tables. I wanted this to be a situation where you interview each other and you share something. So I'm now going to get Patricia to ask me some questions.
Well, you are a writer-director, and I'm curious about what came first, I suppose. Did you write before and then come to film, or did you always have this idea that you would like to be a filmmaker?
When I was a child, I really was that child that liked make-believe, and I used to set productions up and direct them. If you'd have told me that at the time, I wouldn't have known, because it came naturally to me. I was also late learning to read and write, weirdly, because I think I was in a dream world of my own. So for me, unconsciously, the directing happened first. You know, psychologists talk about what you did as a small child being something that you're naturally drawn towards. And yeah, I was always taking charge. I always had a creative vision. All the toys and my friends and my mother's curtains would all go into these directed big productions. But then the writing came in, and you grow up and life happens. And I then came back to the idea of directing quite, you know, later, you know, after and I suddenly realised that writing and directing, I could pick both these skills up again and turn them into something. And for me, it really was a bit of a eureka moment. You know, I worked with Ridley Scott on a film and many years ago, and something triggered, I think, because he's such a good director. And something clicked in the back of my mind, and I suddenly thought, I know what it is I've been searching for. I want your job. So I really had a bit of an aha moment. Yes, all right, it's been a long journey since, but that's because I think I started out just not... and I think a lot of women are like that. They don't realise that you can actually take charge, you can be a director. So if that answers your question, yeah.
So what were the first steps then? So you kind of had this eureka moment where you're like, okay, I think I want to make films. So... you know, from that point, where did you kind of go? Did you already have short stories that you thought I could develop these, or? My very first little film, which sadly has got lost in the mists of time, was shot on film. For some reason, I've ended up shooting a couple of things actually on celluloid. And I just had this idea. I'd written some poetry for a friend's photographic exhibition. So that added to the mix of writing something for a picture. You know, she did these beautiful black and white photographs, and I'd written poetry, and I thought, why don't I turn these into a little script? And I made a little arty film, and I used to dance as a kid, quite seriously as well. Up until I was about 14, 15, I was going to be a dancer. So I knew all about movement and choreography. So it was a very arty-farty little film about poetry, you know, voiceover poetry, and these two beautiful actors all miming and doing stuff to camera. And so, now, of course, you're kind of moving into sci-fi is a strong pull for you. So was that again something that you liked watching when you were younger?
Yeah, I mean, I have always been either side of of the here and now. I love sci-fi, escapism, fantasy, supernatural, horror I will watch, and all of these things I will write. And I also really like history as well. I mean, I'm working on 2 projects which are ancient history. You know, one of them, well, I say ancient, one of them is Elizabethan and one of them is ancient Egypt. So yeah, I tend to like big story worlds, and I always had this imaginative mind that skipped off in 1,000,001 directions and didn't like actually being in here and now. So that's where it comes from, yeah.
And so your first feature, Gracie,
Yes.
which is on Amazon.
Yeah.
Just talk me through how you kind of, what led to developing that, and why you picked that as your first feature.
I picked that because I knew that I wrote Gracie very, very quickly, actually, and I knew that because I knew that you could shoot for nothing in Westminster. And for me, and I think a lot of directors have this problem first time out, they're scared of actors. I wasn't, because I'd worked with actors a lot, and I just like working with actors anyway. I always have done. So for me, it was a question of, shall I take a run at a gate and see if I can do a feature, or shall I do, and I did do one little baby short, as I say, it was the poetry film. And for me, it just sort of happened organically, where I just thought I can get hold of a camera. There's you know, I know where I can shoot in London, and I just went for it. And I had a lot of friends who were actors, and they said, fine, okay, let's go for it. And that's how it happened. It really did, yeah.
And how did it feel like seeing it up on the big screen then, once you've achieved that? That's a big kind of landmark moment.
It is. I mean, I think I'm one of those, I'll use Ridley Scott again as an example. He, Blade Runner, he has re-edited that. And in my little way, I have re-edited Gracie because, like I said, I took a run at it. And I think I got stuck in post, and I got stuck in the production side of things. So although people say it's well directed, although people say the story works, there's an awful lot that I would do better when it comes to the actual edit side, not the edit side, but the look of it and the way it's put together and what happened in post-production with it. Mm. So that's where I then went and studied. And I also got accepted onto a master's degree in screenwriting, because I thought, I liked writing Gracie, and I'd done some training before then. But I thought, no, if you're serious about talking about these big worlds, then you really need to study it.
Yeah.
So what I did, and that's led to the next project, that I'm working on, which again is science fiction. Mm-hmm. So,
what can you tell me about?
Oh, I'd love to tell you about that. DaySix we're currently in development, and we're funding at the moment. Anybody out there? We're funding at the moment, and it is a sci-fi sort of fantasy, and it's a really cool story, and it's a story about a central character who is quite an internal character, but then there are other characters around her who trigger off the story. But essentially, it's in a galaxy far, far away. There is a planet which they have been keeping an eye on Earth for quite a while, and they have also discovered that this is the only planet that they can live in, that they can come and stay here. So they are sending agents here, if you like. But they discover that our planet is also being plagued by life force thieves, and so it ends up being a race in time to save this one central character, and she has had so much that's gone wrong in her life that she wants to die. She wants to commit suicide, and she will go ahead with it. But what these life force thieves, that's actually what they rely on, is when somebody they get somebody to commit suicide, then they steal their life force. So it becomes a race against time, because this girl in the centre of the story, she's a bit like a Greta Thunberg, only one that's had an awful lot gone wrong, and I'm not going to give that away, but she's had some terrible things happen to her. So it's a sort of a three-hander story where you've got obviously the good guys in the galaxy, the bad guys in the galaxy, and they're all fighting over to save or kill this one girl in the centre of it, this character. So she goes on a very, very steep learning curve. She finds out eventually that what's been going on. And everything is very clever. I'm very attracted to stories that have hidden meanings, you know, and I'm attracted to things that are very layered psychologically. So although it's a bit like Highlander. If you've ever seen that 80s film Highlander, it's, you know, there's these two warriors that come to Earth, basically, or the Jedi warriors. Somebody said it's like that. But then at the heart of it, as I say, is this girl who, for each reason, they're fighting over. So that's DaySix, yeah.
When would you ideally like to be shooting this? Do you have a plan yet? Or is it
yes, we do. We are aiming to shoot next spring. You know, we were aiming to shoot sort of spring, sort of 2020, but of course this thing called a pandemic happened, and my producers, No Reservations, all of their films got stuck in a production line. So it has meant that everything is a bit higgledy-piggledy. But yeah, fingers crossed. We have things lined up right now, and we've started casting. Our casting director is Manuel Puro, and we also, you know, we've got all our budgets done, the script is done, and we have people lined up. It's sort of there now. It's on the launch pad. So yeah, we're right on kick-off with that. So we could quite easily be shooting March, April next year, probably April, being realistic about it. But yeah.
Well, wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
It sounds very exciting. So,
well, thank you for obviously being the first guinea pig in BritChicks, and hopefully we'll do some more. And the idea is to get feedback and to actually hear the single voices of up and coming or established even female directors. And if anybody is interested in MYRTLE, I'm going to get Patricia to tell you about how you can watch it and a little bit more about the production side of it.
Well, we're currently in the midst of our festival run, so hopefully it will have an online live at the end. But we have, we're in like 69 festivals. So
and how many of them have you won?
And we've had 19 awards, which is quite phenomenal. Yeah,
congratulations.
So we've got multiple festivals coming up, some which is just too, my brain is mangled thinking about it. But certainly when it is online, we can let you guys know, because we will be looking for a platform to have it. And but there's a kind of a mystery to the story. It's the tagline would be a mother with one meal to prepare and no way out. But we don't want to let the audience in on what's happening. So
that's the fun of MYRTLE. It is the fun of MYRTLE. Okay, so well, there we go. Thanks very much, and keep an eye out, because we hopefully will be doing some more of these. Thank you.